morning. Good to have you here today. Folks, we have a wonderful show today. Our friends from Rescue One are here with us, and we're going to be talking about human trafficking. Very heavy subject, but one that we need to know about. And we're going to ask them a lot of difficult questions. We're going to ask you to be involved with us as well. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please do. But first of all, if you're joining me, let me know where you're joining from. I'd love to know where you're joining from. And AV is here with us this morning. Good morning to you. He says, how are you? Doing great. Sean is here from San Diego, California. We have international friends joining us from all over the world. Always important, always great to have you here. And we're happy if you're joining us today. A lot of people watch this a little later on, not necessarily live. But those of you that are watching live, just let me know where you're watching from. So my co-host today is probably a guy that doesn't need any introduction. Todd Bowe is here with me. Good morning, Todd. There he is. Your sound is not on for some reason. There you go. You're on now.
Am I on?
You're on now. Yes.
You can hear me.
I can't.
Good morning.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So good to see you, Todd. And we have our guests on with us as well. John is just putting all kinds of pictures up. So, John, just give me Todd for a minute, and we'll introduce our guests in a minute. There we go. John's just getting anxious. He wants to look around the screen. So, good morning, Todd. Good to see you, dude.
Good to see you.
So, Todd, if you don't know, is one of the pastors here at Sanctuary. He's been with Sanctuary since the very beginning, and we've been good friends for 43 years. He just doesn't look that old, and of course, neither do I. So there you go.
Once you get beyond 40, you just say forever.
Yeah, you do. That's right.
Yeah.
So Jonas is here with us. Jonas from Sanctuary in Kenya, Africa.
Yeah.
And good to have you with us, Jonas. And he said it's the highlight of his week. You're awesome. Barry is our good friend. We like him very, very much. Good morning, Pastor Bob and the Sanctuary family. He's going to see us Friday. And Friday, by the way, Todd, we're all going to be at Immortal Fest. And folks, if you can join us, please do. Looking forward to a great weekend at Immortal Fest. I'll be hosting the event once again, introducing all the bands, and really looking forward to that time together with all of you. Great bands playing, Todd, and we're going to be leaving early in the morning and driving up there to Ohio. And looking forward to spending the time with y'all.
Yeah.
So that'll be great. Also, the following weekend, we have our gathering here in Tennessee, right outside of Mount Juliet, Tennessee. And this one is called Jesus Didn't Say That. And it's on Saturday, September 7th, always the first Saturday of the month, every month. And if you can join us for the gathering, and then the next day on Sunday, we'll do our regular Sunday morning service, 10:30 a.m., which happens every week right here at Sanctuary. Teach, meet, eat, pray. And that's why we call it 242. It's the Acts 242 at the storehouse. So September 7th, September 8th. And we're looking forward to those times together. Todd, we've got a couple other announcements, and we're going to get to our guests in a minute. But, we've got 3 books that have been released in Sanctuary Publishing just in the last couple months. One of them, of course, is one that you helped author. I wrote the original book, and Todd pretty much wrote the devotional part of it. You spend a lot of time on it, Todd. And so you read as a devotion, and great book, I must say.
It really is. Yeah, it's a fantastic book. And it was very exciting to go through that and put the devotional in there. But
Yes.
it's a great book. I would think of it more as the essence of sanctuary. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I look at it.
That's awesome. And this is Letters to Myself at 21. So, and then Roger Dale wrote this book called This Is What Happened. And this is a book about vengeance. And it's about the early sanctuary. Great read, really fun read. And then,
Yeah,
of
great.
course, the new edition, the old and the new edition of our graphic novel. Hayden wrote this great book. And it's, of course, a very large book and got a lot of cool stuff in it. And it's another sanctuary publication, The Crimson Six. So those three are at Todd.
It's my kind of reading.
Yeah, exactly. You can look at the pictures.
Right.
I should have done a graphic novel for my book. It'd be fun to look at the pictures, right? Yeah. So Todd, you're doing good today?
I am. I'm doing really well, and I am actually in the storehouse here.
Yes.
So this is where we meet on the gathering and on Sundays. Um, Let me just show a picture for everybody so they can see.
There's
This
the
is our stage
worship
area,
there. Yeah.
and that's
There
the
you
entry door and the restroom area goes upstairs. And
are.
we just redid this back area last week, and so
Yeah.
it looks a lot better than it did. And this little seating area, we're going to put a little fireplace back in that area,
Yes.
and with a TV, so we can have some games on Sundays. We've got our walk-in fridge and walk-in freezer right there, kitchen area where we prepare some food, and then all the way back to the beginning again, where the
Yes.
stage area is. So
Well, we have a great time, don't we, Todd?
we
It's
do, we really do, yeah.
so, folks, if you can join us, please do. That would be awesome. And if you can join us this weekend at Immortal Fest, that would be great too. Todd, you and I are driving up tomorrow early in the morning, and we'll be leaving here and probably going through a little traffic on the way. It's holiday weekend, but
Yeah,
we go.
yeah. We'll leave at 5. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
exactly. Well, Todd, we've got a really great ministry with us today, and we've had them on before, and we decided that we needed to do a part two. And I wonder if before they come on, that you could explain our dealing with them. We do a food ministry, and maybe might want to talk about how that relates to this wonderful ministry.
Yeah, well, and I don't want to steal the thunder when they come on about their ministry, because I want them to share that with us. And Rescue One is they make an impact, not just locally here but globally, which is amazing. And I'd like to have them share a lot of that with you guys. What our partnership with them is, we have the opportunity to share much of our food with them. We get dry goods, and we get stuffing from Trader Joe's. And essentially, what I'm doing now is just setting food aside for them to help provide for the folks that they bring in for their ministry. So it's exciting, and it's such a small portion. I feel like I want to do more, and I'm hoping they can share with us in ways that we can get involved more with them. Not just us, but even the mainstream church. It'd be great to have more hands on deck with that. So, but for our portion of it, it's thrilling and exciting. And in fact, we've got a load coming in this morning. It'll be here about 10:15, and Sally from Rescue One will be coming over, and we'll be loading up her vehicle. I don't know what it looks like, if it's a truck or if it's a van, but either way, we're going to load her up and send her off to take care of the folks there at the Rescue One location.
Yes, absolutely.
So very excited about that.
Well, we are excited about that, and we love these folks, and
Yeah.
we're going to bring them on in just a minute. Folks, Rescue One, we're going to talk about human trafficking. We're going to ask you to be involved as well. You'll be able to ask your questions, and we'll get their answers while they're live with us on screen. So don't go anywhere. We've got a great show coming up right after this. We're back, and our special guests today are from Rescue One, our good friends Daniel and Tiffany. Welcome back to the show. It's good to have you back with us. Glad you could join us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks.
Yes, we're excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. We had such a great time with you the first time, and it's been a requested show to have you back again. And it's an area that is difficult, but one that's on everybody's radar right now, and people want to know what's really going on. It all started as conspiracy theories, and it's not a conspiracy. It's really happening more than people can even realize, and something that is on your hearts, obviously, and you've dedicated your lives to this. Let's recap for a minute, if we can. Tell us exactly who you are and what Rescue One is all about.
Want me to start?
Yeah, you go first.
So Rescue One is an anti-trafficking organization that counters human trafficking around the world by using a holistic healing approach. So that's broken down in 3 different departments. And that approach is used as a 3-prong approach in all the areas that we serve. But what that looks like is we have a slide to bring up. It is John, I think it's the strategy one. It might be number 11. There we go. So it's broken down in 3 departments that all build upon each other. First is our prevention department. And our prevention department strategically aims to educate and raise awareness to help others understand what trafficking is, what's causing the demand, and how to be a part of the solution. This department also mobilizes others to serve in high-risk populations, such as our outreach ministry. Our rescue department responds to crisis calls, and that can be from law enforcement, local law enforcement, FBI, TBI, DCS, hospitals, other partnering orgs. But this department responds to the crisis calls to identify the victims and find solutions. Our restoration department, it consists of our restoration program, which is a housing program, and that's where the real healing work begins. So in that program, they're provided housing, life skills, ongoing case management, therapy, meeting medical needs that they have, education on what they've been going through, and training. And so it's kind of like a wraparound care and continuum of care for our survivors.
Excellent. I mean, what an awesome ministry. And you guys really have got it all covered. And not only are you there to rescue, but you've got something that's a clear course ahead for them once they're rescued, which is awesome. So we say them. Let's identify trafficking, and what would be your best definition of what human trafficking actually is?
I'm going to ask that we pull up the AMP slide if we could. So trafficking is the definition of trafficking is the recruitment, transfer, transportation, harboring, receipt of persons, and it's done out of coercion, fraud, deception, manipulation for the means of commercial gain or profit.
Okay. And
So,
and it's a large age group of people, anywhere from small children to older adults.
yes, I think in our experience, we have served the oldest has been age 57,
Wow,
and the youngest has been age 4.
that's incredible. Incredible.
We here in the U.S., internationally, we have served children birthed into the industry, the sex industry, and then women that we've rescued out in their late 60s as well.
Wow. And Daniel, this is something I don't think people understand. They're actually babies that are bred to do trafficking. That's the purpose.
Yes, this is correct.
For trafficking, yes.
Yeah, and I would say in every country and every culture, there is the context of impregnating somebody to birth a child into to be sold as a slave, a sex slave. And
Yes.
the youngest child that we've had abused was 4 months old, and so they were just born. And so yes, that is the reality that happens. We don't hear a lot about that in European or American culture context, but now that we're such a one world system, a society, it's happening more and more.
Yes. Yeah, and let's talk about that for a minute. When you look at this globally, it's a little bigger than what people think. Do you have any statistics about how many people are involved in trafficking? How many countries? You said in almost every country there is trafficking going on, and obviously including the United States big time. But do you have any statistics, and maybe how many?
Yes, the statistics, the ILO puts out a number of 50 million people worldwide who are trafficked.
Wow.
Our organization actually thinks those numbers are less because we were just recently this summer in the Philippines, and outside of the major city, you got these villages, and at that location, there were 3 villages of about, let's see, total, maybe 700 people. And in those villages, when they have the rebel groups or I probably shouldn't say this, but they have ISIS that comes in and takes boys to be child soldiers, which is trafficking.
Yes.
They're taking them for specific, that's called labor trafficking, and then the young girls to be used as sex slaves. They don't report those numbers. Those don't go into official recording system for law enforcement. And so that law enforcement doesn't send that to the ILO to give those numbers. So we hear 50 million. We think that those numbers are actually greater than that. But what we can track with the International Labor Organization is at least 50 million people worldwide who are trafficked. And that goes from labor trafficking all the way to sex trafficking and everything in between. So you got restaurants, massage parlors, maids, nannies, and then stripping or sex industry, the entertainment business, pornography. It's all kind of wrapped around the ability to manipulate someone for cheap labor or no pay at all, and then for whatever the service they want. So that number is 1 in every 150 people around the world trafficked. So you take 150 people, one person in that group is going to have experienced trafficking.
Amazing. 1 in 150 people. That's incredible. And Todd, I was just thinking, if we had a disease that affected 1 in every 150 people, there would be outrage internationally about that. We've got to do something about this. And yet 1 in 150, and very few people are aware of the magnitude of the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a quick question for you, Daniel. You mentioned some statistics there. Is there a particular country that there's more activity going on and within the traffic world than other countries? Is there like a top country that carries most of it, or some of it, or the majority of it? What does that look like?
Yeah, when we do a training, we have a slide that takes the whole globe and breaks it down into statistical numbers. I don't have that in front of me, but it's about 10 times the amount in Asia than it is here, about 5 times in Africa than it is here, and about the same in South and Central and South America. And so it's pretty much the same. The difference between the U.S. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm going to give a caveat here. Post-COVID, our numbers are through the roof. We actually don't know what the numbers are because we have so many people who've been brought here specifically by cartels and even Islamic terrorists who are they've literally set up organizations in Mexico and Central America to ship people here and to pretty much walk them into the country. And so some of those are for terrorist gangs, and some of those also are to sell them, because it's easier to sell a person over and over again than it is, a gun or a weapon and drugs. And so we see that consistently as well. But in the U.S., one of the reasons why either people are brought to the U.S. or trafficking as far as pornography is so high. So right now, there's a term, it's called OSEC. It's online sexual exploitation of children. Those numbers are going through the roof because the U.S. and Europe are the number one consumers of child porn, some type of pornography. You've got OnlyFans sites, you've got dark web sites where you can purchase, you can request certain things. So in the Philippines, we see an increase in family members abusing their children for the purpose of making money. And those videos, the live stream, also purchase videos are going all the time, all over the world. And so, and we're the number one, the U.S. is the number one consumer of that specific thing. So not just online purchasing, at some point, the drug addiction in the brain forces you to desire a physical body. And so it goes from just being addicted to the screen to actually trying to purchase online.
Yes.
Person.
Very.
I can't say that there's a specific country that has the increase. The Philippines is the number one for OSEC. Again, the U.S. is the number one for the consuming that on a screen. And then right now, until we can get accurate numbers from any of the governments about the people leaving their countries for the purpose of being brought to the U.S. or other countries, mainly the U.S., for the purpose of selling either organs or themselves for sex or labor. I don't know that we can actually accurately give that number. But I would recommend people to look at, it's called the TIP report. The Department of Justice puts that out every year, and it gives a breakdown of every specific country that has the numbers. And we buy and sell or trade with them based on a certain number. And so Thailand, for instance, used to be a tier 2 warning. And so we would try to make sure that they increased their response to human trafficking so that we could trade with them. And like on your screen right there, it shows $150 billion. That is revenue. That's not just the use of that. It is $150 billion. And that's trafficked or tracked by the ILO as well. But then right now, and you go into New York, and someone about 7 years ago decided that they could make money on porn. And so they actually, you can purchase, you can buy into stock for porn production. And again, the numbers are 75 to 90% of porn is produced, forcibly produced on somebody. So again, human trafficking.
So, and Daniel, it brings up another question, and maybe comment and question. It's not an accident that this has happened. This is big business. There are people that are making a lot of money on this. It's not an accident that our border has been open for 4 years and that children are coming through and that people are profiting on the sale of those children. It's not a coincidence that our own lawmakers and our own people in government that are supposed to be protecting the people, many of them are making money on this business as well. We have people that are lobbying for the sex trade organizations in Washington, D.C. This is huge business that people don't want for it to go away because they're making money. Would you say that's a fair assertion?
Oh. Are we muted?
No, we're good.
Oh, okay. So the last slide that we had up, and Daniel touched on this, but it is such a criminal enterprise and big business because a lot of people are moving towards the trafficking because, as Daniel mentioned, how many times can you sell drugs? One time, and a gun. But you can sell a person 10 to 15 times a night. And so over and over and over again, they're making a profit. And so that's why a lot of people are moving into that business.
Incredible. And again, it's important to stress that these people are being used against their will. A lot of times when people think of the sex industry, they think of people that are doing it, simply because they have a desire to. And, I've spent time in red light district, especially in Zurich in Switzerland. I've spent a lot of time in the red light district there. And I've seen all the women from Romania and from other countries that are being held against their will and that are being sold, and their passports are stolen. Their means of, they even keep them skinny so they're more desirable. And, our ministry there has been sneaking food to them so they won't die. They're so thin. And there are those things that are going on internationally against their will. And I think it's important that we bring that part up because this is an atrocity, but it's against the will of people who are involved, basically, as well.
Yes. Well, let's just touch on a couple myths there that you're talking about. So one is one that we hear often from people that come to us. They ask, do the women know that they're being trafficked? And I would say out of our experience, 80 to 90% do not. And that's due to a lack of education, awareness of even understanding what they're going through. That can also be lack of understanding, awareness, what else?
Well, they don't have any family.
Well, yes,
So
but they also can feel like they're complicit in their decisions. So there's a lot of entanglement that there's normally intimidation involved, manipulation. There have been huge threats put on their life, their families. So there are a lot of things preventing them from leaving that situation as well. So another myth that we have heard is if they knew they were being trafficked, or once they knew that or understood that, why wouldn't they tell somebody or get out? And the reason again is because one half is they don't understand what's going on and what's happening because of a lack of education. The other half is the huge threat of violence and the control that the pimp has on them. They have, more times than not, they have seen women beat really bad for simple disrespect, let alone telling someone or trying to run away. So with that, another few things that would keep them in that situation would be the intimidation, manipulation, and addiction as well.
I was going to say that the same means of getting them, the force, threat, coercion, deception, those manipulations, those things don't end once they're in the control of somebody. They get worse and worse. And not only do they use the physical threats or abuse, the sexual threats or abuse, but they use social threats and abuse. They usually are connected with somebody, and here in the U.S. and even overseas. So in the U.S. you have what's called a bottom. It's the female that controls the stable, the women inside, that's protected by the trafficker. She doesn't have to service men anymore, but she controls the girls overseas, especially in all of Asia. They have a mama-san, a papa-san, and that term is very synonymous with a trafficker or a pimp. And so they use that social intimidation, and then a lot of debt bondage as well, like she mentioned. So at some point, somehow the money used to either acquire somebody or to get them from one location to another location, they use that for their quotas that they have to make. And so those are forced on them, and then that happens on a consistent basis here. Some of the other myths there that on that screen. Now,
this is not to say it does not happen that
Right.
way. We understand that sometimes it can. However, we have learned through our experience that that is not the predominant way that women are trafficked here.
Yeah, it is the lowest form of percentages. The highest form are some type of, we call it the boyfriend complex, where someone has wooed male or female into some type of relationship, usually online. So Facebook, Kik, Snapchat, Instagram, there's a couple out there that are TikTok, are used to entertain or allure somebody into kind of that lifestyle. And then they use those manipulation tactics to control them, convince them to either meet with them. Here's one of the ways. You're so pretty. I just love a picture of you in your bra and your underwear. Well, they get that, and then it progresses or spirals downward to where now they use either that image or even a nude image that they use it as blackmail. If you don't do this more thing, I'm going to put it online. And then again, a book that we encourage people in the U.S. to read. You probably can get it overseas. I do know that I think you can get it on Audible. It's called A Slave Across the Street. We even have some here, but I would recommend two things. If you want to know the profile of what trafficking looks like, still even today, inside a healthy family, mom and dad are still together. Young lady was on the athletic teams, doing good in athletics, doing really good in her academics, and then she met a boy who was part of a gang, an overseas gang that was living here in the U.S. He wooed her into it, and then an event happened where she was gang raped, videoed, and images were taken, and they used that as blackmail. And then for 2 years, for 3 to 4 nights a week, she would service men in the community there. They would threaten to kill her brother, her dog, her family. And so that happens a lot. Still the same scenarios that happens. It's a very graphic book. Actually, when Lacey read it, my wife, she said, I don't think you can read this just because the images that it puts in your head. So I would caution men, if you're going to read the book, you need to be prepared to hear things, to see things in your mind that we as men probably should not hear. So just be prepared that will happen. Again, it's called The Slave Across the Street. I recommend that any of our women who are listening to read that. And women, as we know the numbers, 1 out of every 3 have experienced some type of sexual abuse that creates the vulnerabilities to somebody being able to take advantage of them. And every one of our survivors that we've helped and victims that don't come into our program because they just can't get out of the life at childhood or early teens experience either significant sexual abuse or at least physical abuse, and then abandonment from a male figure, a father or grandfather in their family. So that happens as well. It doesn't happen just here in the U.S. It does happen overseas as well. So one of the ways that we can prevent this problem from growing more is having healthy families. Men being responsible with who they're supposed to be as fathers and husbands. That is the key. That's the number one way that we could fight this, is having healthy families, healthy men, and men who are not addicted to pornography, and they are one woman man. I recommend that. And if it's not been your experience, it's okay. God can redeem that time and change that for you. So I encourage you to do that as well.
Yes. Yeah, and you bring up something that I think is another avenue that a lot of people don't think about, and that is some of the things that are a little more accepted these days than when I was growing up. Sexting is popular with kids these days, and all the people that are getting involved with OnlyFans. There are tons of young people that once they hit 18, they're ready for their OnlyFans platform. And I've been working with a guy that started his OnlyFans when he became 18. I think he's almost 20 now and can't seem to find a way out of that whole world. It's a trap that people get into and don't know how to get out again. And so even those things that seem maybe not as hostile or as addictive as some of the other extremes you're talking about, even OnlyFans and sexting lead to something else. And Daniel, that's why you talk about strong families. That's why it's so important to have strong families, isn't it?
I think it's probably the key component for our society. We don't just need healthy families in the church. We need healthy families outside the church.
Yes.
And the church, this is the number one way, not just to end human trafficking, but actually to serve the community like we're supposed to, as the bride of Christ, is serving our families in our communities that are broken, are dysfunctional. This is the number one way we can love. Think about the woman at the well. Jesus went to her and said, this is right. You don't just have, the man you're living with is not your husband, and you have 5 so far.
Yes.
Broken families, dysfunction, abuse, those things we don't deal with appropriately, especially in the church, because it's a difficult topic to deal with. And I think you probably have just kind of an experience or things as far as those that you've helped through this is probably pretty common, right?
Oh, yeah. I would say that a lot of the women also have, when they come into our program, they've had a lot of dysfunction in the church and what they've seen. And leaders in the church have abused their role, so to speak. And we're all broken, right, in some way or fashion. But so they come to us, and it's not just repairing the healing that they've gone through, but there's also a journey of healing that relationship with Jesus, really. But that's not on us, that's on him. But it is a huge problem. There's been a lot of church hurt. There's been a lot of things that have made the women more vulnerable and a little hesitant to trusting in Jesus.
Yes. and especially when it's abuse from the church.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My friend Rachel here in Mount Juliet was targeted at the age of 12 in her church by some of the leaders in the church and brought into trafficking. Her father was the pastor of the church, and that led to into her marriage and to having 3 children before she was finally able to get out of it. And I think people don't understand the coercion and the mental anguish that people go through in trying to escape that. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think, and not every church obviously is like that. It's an exception, but what is our role as Christians to be involved in this? And um, what are the biggest challenges that face your ministry in getting the word out and getting churches involved, Christian people involved in it as well?
You want to speak about churches?
Yeah, I can. I just got probably three thoughts here. I'll try to be real quick because I know we're running out of time, and I want to make sure we get ample time for to answer any other questions you
Yes.
guys have for her. First thing is, I think in Luke 2:52, I think I mentioned this on the first time we were on. Luke 2:52 says that Jesus grew in stature with God, and stature and wisdom with God and men. And those are really four elements that we develop as humans: first, physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, and spiritually. And
Yes.
we, as a church, should be teaching our families, our young families, that this develop the whole person, not just let's make them smart and they go to college, or let's raise up the next Peyton Manning, or I can't think of a soccer player right now, Messi, right? We focus on those. We actually are not raising our young children. I say this all the time to my kids. They'll say something about, "Oh, Dad, that's not fair. Whatever. I'm young. I'm 17." I'm like, "Great. You're not going to be a child forever.
Yes.
I'm raising you to be an adult. And so put your big boy pants on and let's be an adult." At 13, you really are a man. For young women around the same age, they really are. Our teenage girls, they really are women. They're growing to be an adult. And we do not raise them also to think in the perspective of, I'm going to get married one day and I'm also going to have children. And I need to be teaching them how to have good marriages, what is appropriate in sex, what is not appropriate in sex, what's appropriate in roles and responsibilities, functions inside of a marriage.
Yes.
Those are very important. Second thing is Ephesians 6 talks about how we, as the older generation, let's just say it that way, the older generation is supposed to teach the younger generation. And right now, a lot of churches don't do that. It's the best music, the flashy music. I love all music. I love the flashy stuff, but the context of it is it's rock and roll Jesus, everything, and it's not servant Jesus. It's not prophet Jesus. It's not oh, you have a sin problem. We need to get over this thing, and we need to know how Jesus responds to it, and not just in the New Testament, but the Old Testament. It takes the whole Bible to make a Christian, and
Sure.
a healthy Christian. So I think that the church really needs to know that because of our inability to teach proper theology, teach how to build good families, healthy families that are not for the church. I think we do that too. Let's build up good families so we can have a healthy church, a local church. No, let's build healthy families so we can have a healthy nation. And
Yes. Yes.
if we do that, then some of these problems that we have will dissipate. Last thing I'll say is when we, just like you said, Pastor Bob, we've got people in the church that are either abusing their authority and manipulating and taking advantage of our children, especially girls. Those numbers are high. The church should look different than the world, and we really don't. So the porn addiction inside the church is astronomical. The promiscuity in the church is astronomical. The infidelity in the church is astronomical. And here's what I think is the problem with that. I think we've become so liberalized from reality that we don't adhere to or pursue a holiness of God across the board. It's not God thinks we should be holy here, and so I'll be holy here, but he gives us grace there, so we'll kind of abuse that. I think the same God who wiped people out, I'm just going to be that descriptive, who wiped people out in the Old Testament because of sin, is the same God that we serve. In Revelations, when Jesus does come back, we're going to see the same God who would correct nations who rejected him. We're going to see that same God do the same thing at the end of time. And why are we not actually teaching that as a church, that he's going to come back and he's going to eradicate every enemy? We should, as a people, should be saying trafficking exists because us selfish men, we want sexual desire or pleasure, or we want greed, we want money. And so inside the church, it looks not as bad as the world, but it still is there. And I think we need to be responding as an entire church, the bride of Christ, that these things should so enrage us, the church, that we should be putting all of our efforts, to fight trafficking. But again, having healthy families prevents it from happening.
Yes.
How to respond to it prevents it from happening. Adopting children, fostering children, taking in what we call a family care team, someone who says, I'm a single woman, or I'm an older married couple, and I want to be able to help the next generation heal from these things and be ready to go on into their independent living and support the church and also build a community. That's what we have to do together. And it takes the whole Bible to produce a healthy Christian. And I think sometimes we just get narrow-minded to whatever our proclivity is, even in the church, and we're just not healthy enough. Knowing scripture and knowing how to respond. And I'll tell people all the time, and I'll be done.
You're fine.
We were called to do two things. The great commandment, which is to love your neighbor as yourself, give them what they need. Acts 2:42, like you guys already mentioned. If you have something that someone else needs, you give it to them. It's not communism. That is a blessing. God bless me with it. You need it more than I do, so I'm going to bless you with it. And I think that we forget that as a group, and then we don't do the Great Commission, and we don't pair them together. We either go do the Great Commission and we preach at everybody and try to plant churches, or we do social justice ministries, and we don't align those together. It is two rails on one track.
Yes.
To be paired side by side in order for the Jesus who we serve to penetrate a culture and a community best. That's what we have to do together.
Absolutely. Amen. Very well said. We have a question on our screen, Daniel, and this is a tough one. Do you know if Planned Parenthood is involved in human trafficking? It's horrible. What Planned Parenthood did last week at the DNC is evil.
So I was going to ask Amanda if she wanted to do that one. Yes, the Planned Parenthood, the whole structure of Planned Parenthood is to enslave a group of people. And we know the origin of that, right? Well, that continues to expand in the same context. Here's answer to the question is yes, Planned Parenthood is participant in making sure that women who are trafficked get affordable health care, reproductive rights, so a trafficker can bring her to Planned Parenthood and kill a child. That way it doesn't interfere with his ability or her ability to make money off that person. Second thing is Satan is jealous of God, and he will do everything he can to twist the truth just a little bit. So he encouraged people to create this thing. That way, abortion. That way, people can, again, remember I mentioned earlier, We have been liberalized. We are a liberal society. It's my body, my rights, my will, my thing, me. If I want to have sex, I can. If I want to have unprotected sex, I can. Whatever it is. If I want to sell myself, I can. There's consequences to those things, and always, again, we don't teach this in our church. The function of sex is intimacy with your spouse and to produce a healthy, godly offspring.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And we don't teach that. And so our society is also enslaved first to sin. And this is just another exacerbation of our sin, our putting ourselves on the throne of our hearts. We have become an idol, or my sex or my body has become an idol and not God. And so Satan knew what he was doing when he encouraged the starting of Planned Parenthood.
Another comment about Planned Parenthood. I guess, Daniel, it might be a good idea to say that Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood, was definitely believed in population control.
Yes.
And only allowing, basically white people to live. She was in favor of exterminating people of other colors and people that weren't as intelligent, that population control and the survival of the fittest was the way forward. And
I got the political Holocaust.
Yeah, that really hasn't changed, has it?
Has not changed. And not only that, again, Satan is using it not only to control a group of people and to do population control, but also, if you think about it, the number of people who are in the church who are leaving, especially young people who are going through deconstruction and leaving the church because of that. One, leaving the church, but also because you can abort, and we're not teaching proper what sex is, what marriage is, and the way God designed it. We have people who are either denying marriage and producing children. That's how do you, in Italy right now, they're paying people because of what they call it the aging population. That just means that they're not producing children to take the place of people who are retiring and dying. And so in the U.S. we have the same thing. And so again, this is not as far as human trafficking concerns, it's a wholly different thing. Satan is trying to build a construct of the one world government to where we get rid of the ability for a country like the U.S. to defend itself from invading countries. And so if we don't have people we're not producing people to defend the country, then we can't defend ourselves, especially the old people, they can't do it. And so that's a different topic, but same vein.
Same thing. Yes.
Same perversion. It's just, it's that jealousy to God. You created these people and Satan says, I'm going to ruin them. That's pretty much it.
And I think, Daniel, too, it's again, it's under the myth of population control that the world is somehow overpopulated, which is not true. You could take the whole world's population, put them in families of 4, mother, father, 2 children, give them each an acre of land, and the whole world population would fit in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
So that's our population. That is not overpopulated. We have a lot more room, but you've got to begin to create some reasoning for promiscuity, basically, these days, and that's one of the ways that it's done. That's how Planned Parenthood started, and that's kind of our whole course these days. It seems like, well, I wish we would have 5 more hours to talk. We're getting a little close to our time. Todd, is there anything else that you feel like that we should chat about?
Oh goodness, I could think of a number of things, and I do wish we had another 5 hours to talk to these two. Fortunate we have access to you guys, and I appreciate that very, very much.
Yes.
I would love to have you guys back on again, and we need to,
Yes.
when we plan this, we need to plan it so we can actually solidify it. We had to replan a few times for this one. But I appreciate you guys being on here. I appreciate your information. The thing that I was thinking about, what Daniel was talking about there, was that came to my mind, and really, Daniel, you just reminded me of this. Um, it's such a spiritual battle. And I think the spiritual battle starts within us as an individual. It starts within the church, and the church has to permeate the culture and those around us. And I think that's really what you're saying, Daniel, in my mind, is that it's a spiritual battle and it needs to start and cultivate within us.
Yes.
And making those around us aware of these things, and you guys have talked about, um, and impacting society in that way.
Yes.
I think it's such a critical time and venture. I mean, I would love to go over the stats again and all that stuff. And so many things are twirling in my mind, but I think that's the core of it is the spiritual aspect of it and going after um, lives to bring them into a close relationship with the Lord. I think that's the answer.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, you guys, we asked this question last time, but can we have you back again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do part 3.
There's so many more things I'd like to talk about, and folks, this is an area that all of us need to be involved with, and again, if your church isn't involved, we need to be. We need to be involved in some way in this horrendous thing that's happening, not only in our country, but these things that are happening around the world. Rescue1global.org for more information. A lot of a lot of things on that website that you can use. A lot of information that you'll find helpful. And once again, Daniel and Tiffany, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. And folks, thank you for being with us today. Always enjoy you joining us here on Sanctuary Live. We'll be back next week. Hope to see some of you this weekend at Immortal Fest, and then the following weekend right here as we do our big sanctuary gathering once again. Folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.